Hey, welcome back to the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. I'm thrilled to be joined by Curtis Bateman, who's an internationally recognized presenter, content developer, change consultant, really important on that one, business leader and coach. And his passion for enabling organizations at change was established early on. And I am super duper excited to have him on the program as he is one of the authors of Change, How to Turn Uncertainty into Opportunity. Curtis Bateman, welcome to the program.
Hey, thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. Man, I mean, change is definitely a constant, that's for sure. And it's something that's true of both big businesses, small businesses, but I always love to get to know the people that are so passionate about the topic. Curtis, if you don't mind, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, relevant to this topic, I started down this course about 22 years ago, specifically exploring change when I worked with Dr. Spencer Johnson on the book Who Moved My Cheese. They've been out for a while, and I worked with him on that for a number of years. And I got involved in individual change and realized organizational change had some extra needs beyond what Who Moved My Cheese offered. So we started studying it and working on it with clients. It's really great. I did that as a small business owner, which meant we went through a lot of change every time we were trying to do something new. There was a lot of change in our small business. And just developed this really practical viewpoint around change and how we might want to help organizations. I'd been in software for 10 years. That led to a lot of change with clients when we implemented it. And so it was this growing groundswell of interest in it. And it's been a great journey trying to be really practical, figuring out how to help leaders, individuals, and organizations.
And now we've got the book on the topic, Change, How to Turn Uncertainty into Opportunity. So Curtis, you are the Vice President of International Direct Offices at Franklin Covey. Again, lots of experience in this topic over here, and together with your co-authors, I know you have certainly really created a really fundamental guidebook, I'll call it that, on the topic of change. So let's talk about change. Change is a constant, and we're all leaders. Everybody listening to this program is a leader. How would you say, and how do you talk about leading people through the human reactions of change, which, as we said over and over again, is inevitable?
Yeah, I like that you said guidebook. We've tried to be really practical. And one of the practical things we do is we talk about human reaction. Everybody, when a change is introduced, even if you're expecting it, there is this reaction to the change. And as a leader, we're not trying to identify a right reaction and say one is right or wrong. What we're trying to do is to say, hey, we're human. We have a reaction. Let's focus on the people rather than get so fixated on the change process. And if we can shift as a leader and focus on people, their reactions, and how to help them understand their reaction, make different choices about their reactions, and then engage with the change, we find that our people will engage, we get better alignment, and we start to move through the change much more effectively and efficiently.
Absolutely. Curtis, I had an old boss that always used to use this line. It drove me crazy. Do routine things routinely. But the interesting thing is that change is actually part of our routine. We know that change is somewhat predictable. So in the guidebook, you talk about the change model. Let's talk a little bit about what our listeners, especially entrepreneurs and small business owners, need to know about the change model and how this makes change actionable and predictable.
Yeah. One of the things we looked for in our early work was what's going on and is it consistent? And if we could map it, can we help people understand what to expect? Thus emerged the change model. And the change model looks at what goes on with our outcomes over time when a change starts to emerge on the landscape. And when it does, we move through 4 distinct zones. We move out of status quo into a phase where change has been announced. And that's the zone of disruption, where there's all this disruptive energy, this emotional reaction. Got to figure out what to do with that and some choices we need to make. And then we find ourselves moving into the zone of adoption, where we're starting to work on the change, we're starting to engage with it. And as we start to have success with that, hopefully what it's leading us to is a better outcome. We wouldn't want to change for no gain. And so what we're looking to do is understand what is the progress we're making? How can we leverage that to create gain and thus derive value from the change? So 4 zones: status quo, disruption, adoption, and innovation, that we look at in this very predictable pattern. It happens in our personal life with change, in our professional life. And when we lead change, if we understand that, it'll help us know how to guide our people along the journey.
Yeah, no question about it. It's funny that you use some of those lines because we're so commonly saying no pain, no gain, but in reality, change doesn't need to bring pain with it. Curtis, the book is Change: How to Turn Uncertainty into Opportunity. Real quick, how did you come up with that title? Why do you believe that uncertainty actually can lead to that opportunity?
Yeah, most of change represents the uncertainty we find in the zone of disruption. What's going on? Why is this happening? What does it mean to me? So even though the change may be known, what's going on for me as a leader or an individual is uncertain. And if we follow this predictable process or pattern, there is a way to start turning that uncertainty that we feel as human beings into opportunity, whether or not that's opportunity in our current context or even opportunity that we select as an individual. We find that predictable pattern allows individuals, teams, leaders, and organizations to walk through that journey of uncertainty into opportunity using some of the tools and ideas that we share.
I love it. Again, I'm chatting with Curtis Bateman, who is Franklin Covey's Vice President of International Direct Offices, but important for this conversation is the best-selling author of Change: How to Turn Uncertainty into Opportunity. We're going to continue our conversation with Curtis in just a moment. Quick break. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Down to Business. You can always get on my website, shalomklein.com, or of course, get on your favorite podcast app. Be sure you rate, review, and share. It makes it easier for others to find out about all of the amazing content creators, including Curtis Bateman, who is continuing our conversation with us over here with over 25 years of experience in the training industry. Curtis and his colleagues have written Change: How to Turn Uncertainty into Opportunity, something I'm really passionate about. So Curtis, again, welcome back. And we've been chatting about the predictability of change, which I guess really leads to my next question, which is, how do we minimize the disruption of change?
Yeah, this is the key, because when we introduce a change, it creates a disruption, which is a decrease in engagement, a decrease in results, whatever that is, and it creates this dip in our output, our outcomes. And what we're looking to do is to minimize the amount of time we spend in that kind of U-shaped dip of change. And the more we can do to shrink that, then the faster and the more effectively we can move to the other side of it, where we start to get the opportunity piece of this. So how do we do that? Well, it starts clear back in the zone of status quo, that zone, the first zone we talked about. And what we need to do is learn how to develop our change muscle so that we're in better change condition as we head into a change. That means learning how to anticipate some of the changes coming. And as we do that, how to prepare ourselves so that the change has less impact on us as we enter the zone of disruption. And it allows us to use that change capability or change muscle that we build, both in the zone of status quo and through successful change experience. That change muscle becomes something we can rely on. But it's not something as human beings we focus a lot on. We generally think, I'm going to endure this change and whew, it's over, I'll move on. But we want to learn from it and develop capability. And each of these 4 zones in our book, we talk about what are some skills and capabilities we can do in each of the 4 zones to improve our change muscle and over time develop change competency, so that future changes, the size of that dip, that impact on productivity and output shrinks, and we become more effective at moving through it. So there's some things to learn, but it's all learnable, it's very approachable, and it fits right in line with this predictable pattern, the change model.
Absolutely. So one of the most important homework assignments that I have for all of our listeners, again, is to make sure you pick up a copy of this fantastic read guidebook. And Curtis, Can you tell our listeners how they can find the book and get in touch with you and your team?
Yeah. So obviously it's available in bookstores everywhere, and it's also available on the online bookstores where you can get both the Kindle version, the hardback, or the audiobook version of it where you can listen to it. So that's easily done in all of the bookstore formats you'd normally go find. Franklin Covey also has access to this. If you go to franklincovey.com, you'll find on there some pages about the book, about me and my co-authors. You can learn a little bit about our backgrounds, where each of us came into the book writing experience, all from very different walks of life and professional experiences, which hopefully adds some really nice breadth and depth and stories and real world experiences that'll help each one of you connect with one of us to the ideas in the book. So that's at franklincovey.com. And of course, if you'd like to connect with me personally, I'm on LinkedIn, just /Curtis Bateman. Would love to connect with people and have a dialogue around changes they might be experiencing in their lives or their organization.
Because indeed, change is a constant, that's for sure. And I know, Curtis, you write a lot on Franklin Covey's website, lots of great blog posts and a frequent source of current information. Curtis, really appreciate you sharing your expertise with our listeners, and I look forward to having you back on the program real soon.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up on the program, be sure to check out our sponsors, Tom Mirabali from healthplanchicago.com for all of your health insurance and Affordable Care Act needs. You can reach him 630-863-3477, 630-863-3477, or his website, healthplanchicago.com. That's a wrap for us here on the show about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Let's get down to business. We'll talk to you next Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on AM 560 The Answer.